Hi, Kevin Martin here, your UT admissions guy. I'm currently at Kidd Springs Park in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas, and I'm here to talk to you today about some common errors that applicants make and common misconceptions that people hold about the admissions process. It's kind of a long list, but firstly, I often see students who, because they have below average SAT or ACT test scores, they think that they're not going to get admission to UT, right? Average means that 50% necessarily have at that score or higher or at that score or lower. So if you've got 26 on the ACT and the average is a 29, you should still definitely apply because you're in the ballpark. Secondly, some students think that top 7% guarantees admission to their major of choice. This isn't true. No student at UT Austin is guaranteed their major, and in fact, all students are submitted to the same holistic review process. Thirdly, UT Austin does not superscore. Some universities take the highest math from one day, highest verbal to another, and they put them together for a test that never happened. UT doesn't do that. Fourth, UT Austin doesn't care what type of high school you come from. They're not concerned if it's the number 5 high school in the state of Texas or whether it's public or private. There's not a point scale assigned to those high schools that are perceived to be more or less competitive or more or less rigorous than another. Fifth, I've talked about this in a separate video, but your second choice major doesn't matter. UT Austin is only concerned with what you put as your first choice. Next, sometimes students will say, well, my GPA is this and my class rank is that. What happens? And the answer is UT Austin is only concerned with your class rank. If you're at a non-ranking high school, then they have kind of their own internal process to look at your GPA and assign a rank for you. Next, UT Austin doesn't look at subject tests for the SAT. Some of the honors programs do, but they're only concerned with that general SAT, ACT with writing main test. They don't look at the subject tests. Eighth, sometimes students look at that December 1st deadline and they think everything needs to be submitted by December 1st. But you can actually submit test scores up until December 31st. And there's also an internal deadline of about a week between December 1st and around December 6th or 7th, where you can submit an essay or an extra letter of recommendation or a resume. But that applied text must be submitted by December 1st. That's non-negotiable. Ninth, some students or some applicants may find out early, and that's because they're exceptional in certain ways, but the vast majority of applicants are going to find out shortly before March 1st. So some students may find out early, but no student is going to be denied from UT Austin, in November or December. And just because you haven't found out in December doesn't mean you're going to get denied. Just wait and be patient. Next, so there is no, sometimes, especially when I worked in admissions for UT, some universities say if you have a certain test score combined with a certain class rank, you're guaranteed admission. So they ask me, Kevin or Mr. Martin, what's the magic score I need? Like, what's the number that will guarantee me admission to UT or my major of choice? And the answer is there is no magic number. Certainly the higher the test score, the better, but there's not going to be like you need to shoot for a 28 or you need to go for a 32. The process doesn't work like that. Another misconception people have is they ask me, okay, if I'm in 8.2% of my graduating class, do I gain automatic admission? The answer is no. You must be in the top 8%. However, there are a few exceptions. If you're in the top 8.09%, you do gain automatic admission. That happened in a select few cases, but that cutoff is less than 0.09% of whatever the cutoff is for that year. A lot of my out-of-state applicants think they're at some sort of a disadvantage compared to in-state students, but in fact, in-state and out-of-state applicants have a similar admissions profile, they have similar acceptance rates, and there really isn't any advantage or disadvantage to applying as an out-of-state student versus in-state, except in-state students have that advantage of accessing the automatic admissions law. I think the biggest error I see students make is not trusting the essay process. They submit their essays the last minute. Their first draft is their last draft. They just don't take it seriously. Even those students who are in the top of their class, scoring great on their standardized tests, are oftentimes not trusting the essay process and putting forward thoughtful and informative essays. Next, a common question I get is does UT preference advanced placement over IB? In fact, the answer is no. They don't give any preference to an IB certificate versus IB exams, or AP exams versus IB exams. They just want to, UT, and I think this is true of most, admissions committees at selective universities, just want to see that you're taking the most rigorous courses available to you. Fit what works your schedule the best, whether it's AP or IB, if they're both offered at your school. Another error I see students make is not building a relationship with their admissions representatives. When I worked for UT, I was responsible for 65 high schools, and there was something like 3,000 applications coming out of my territory each year. But that certainly didn't mean there were 3,000 applicants that were contacting me. In fact, it was, in any given year, maybe only 30 or 40 students reaching out to me on a regular basis. And when it comes for scholarships or kind of extra consideration, it never hurts to have a friend on the inside who can advocate for you. My last piece of advice, this is a common error I see people make, is as soon as someone says, oh, my friend told me, or I read on College Confidential, or I saw on this Facebook that, and usually a pretty bad piece of information or misleading statement. And so the common error I see people make is not getting information from trusted, verifiable resources. If you ever have a question, go straight to the source. Ask UT Austin directly, what their policy is, or if it's Harvard or Stanford, just ask them and see if you can immediately find an answer to your questions, because there is a lot of bad information out there, and it can be hard to filter out the good from the bad. So these are sort of the common errors I see students make. The next video I'm going to do, we'll talk about some general tips on how you can improve your application. As always, feel free to get in touch, kevin@texadmissions.com, so we can talk about how to improve your application and maximize your chances of gaining admission to UT Austin. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.